Welcome to the second hour of the show with no name for June the 14th, 2013. Oh, by the way, this is the show with no name. Okay.
What's the?
That's the magic when you put
No,
the
I
bubble
snap my
in.
fingers and the title comes up.
Oh, okay.
It's amazing. It's amazing the power I have. I have power. I have power.
Like that
Technology.
psychic?
Look, watch this. Watch
Like
this.
that psychic?
Well, I have power.
Let me see. I'm going to.
This is Gavin Murdoch.
Oh yeah.
okay.
I see that.
Pretty good. White on purple.
There you go.
This is Jim Nikosha.
White on gray.
Yeah,
and
he's
black
probably white.
and tan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good, huh?
I'm impressed. Technology.
Well, watch this. This is what happens when you're the boss of the show. I'm Bob Going. See? Red on white.
For Flag Day.
Okay. That's right. That's right. Today is Flag Day. If you watch the first hour of the show, which, why wouldn't you? You know, why would you watch the second hour first? And if you didn't watch the first hour, why would you be watching the second hour?
Well, it's the second hour. If it's interesting, then they'll go back and watch the first. If it's not interesting, they figure the first isn't very interesting.
Well, let's see. What's going on with the city? We got the elections coming up.
Yeah, I got some people running. Got some people running.
I hear some rumors, too. One of the new... It's hard to conceptualize where all the new Montgomery County legislative districts are, because they cross town and district lines or ward lines and such. But apparently there's one district that includes part of the first ward, but a big chunk of the town of Amsterdam. Okay?
Okay.
And the rumors I hear, and I haven't, again, I say these things, I haven't heard this from the principals, nor have I seen any announcements, but I hear a rumor that Joe Emanuel wants to run for one of those, for that legislative district, and that the Democrats may be nominating Robbie Pertell of the Century 21 agency, whose father was a longtime alderman of the 8th Ward, but he lives in the town of Amsterdam at this point, so he would be the
challenger?
Well, that's an open
contenders,
seat.
contenders.
They would be the contenders. That would be an interesting race. Let's see, John DeChesi apparently is running for a seat that includes a big chunk of the 5th Ward and the West End of the city, so that would be your district, but and maybe you're in the same district as me, right?
Yeah,
you
we
in
should be.
3-2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're in the district where Butch Grieco is running. I mean, the Democrats had endorsed Joe Isabel for that position, so that could be a
interesting.
Yeah, because Joe was a Republican, and then he switched when he didn't get that job in Fonda that he was looking for. Apparently, I don't think I heard that from him, but that's what I heard. And so that's kind of an interesting race. Apparently, in the city races, let's see the city races. In the 1st Ward, the Democrats have nominated Ken Major for the 1st Ward alderman. And the Republicans... Who are the Republicans backing there?
First word I didn't hear.
Yeah.
Well.
Yes, I did hear that it was going to be Eddie Russo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Eddie.
Yeah, because he ran a primary against Isabel a few years ago, and Major ran against Isabel last time. But now Isabel's talking about how he wants to run again. Now he's a Democrat, so he'd have to win the Democratic primary, where he previously had run and won as a Republican. So who knows? Okay, all right. So the 2nd Ward, I guess Valerie Beekman is running again, and I haven't heard anybody else's name. Third Ward, apparently Ronnie Barone wants to run to take Gina's seat, Gina DeRossi's seat. And then that has the further strange implication of Tony Leggero, who seems to think that he can run, that he can be elected alderman and continue to work for the city. At least that's what it sounded like he was saying.
Yeah, he said.
Which is absolutely not true. I mean, he's got to choose one or the other. If he gets elected, he's going to have to quit his job in the DPW.
Yeah, 'cause he explained it in the paper that he
Has he got?
found something that allows him to.
Yeah, he's full beans. Everybody has told him that. Everybody who knows what the law is has told him that he can't do that, and yet he's playing his own lawyer. He's confusing aspects of the Hatch Act with state law and the city charter.
Hatch Act has nothing to do with the city government.
Well, it can. It can. It depending on whether the Hatch Act did apply.
If you were getting city or federal monies.
If there was federal monies involved in paying your salary. And I doubt that there's much of that in the situation he's in.
No.
However,
Of course, Bill Wills got away with the Hatch.
well, yeah, because Bill, it depends on what department of the state you work for. Bill worked for Office of General Services, which is almost 100%, if not 100%, funded by state tax funds, so it didn't apply to him. Whereas if you work for Department of Social Services, where 75%,
Yeah.
I had to analyze that when I ran for city court judge, and again when I ran for family court judge, because both times I was employed as the attorney for the Social Services Department. But I was a part-time employee, and you actually had to come down to the percentages. How much of your personal income is coming? If I worked full-time for the Department of Social Services, I probably couldn't have, because it was over 50%. But because it was less than 50% of my total income, then it didn't count. And in any event, I wrote for an opinion to the council for whoever's in charge of that, enforcing the Hatch Act. I forget, some office in Washington. I had the address. I wrote for an opinion in like January of '85. I still haven't got a reply.
They're in the process.
They're in the process of reviewing it. Yeah.
Has Anthony worked for the city more than 20 years?
Well, let's see. It's hard to figure because he was. Let's see. He worked for the city before the first Gulf War, which was '91. So yeah, I'd have to say he must have.
If he's got 20 years in, then maybe he figures that he'll retire from the city if he gets the position.
But he's not old enough to retire. He'd have to be 55 to retire. Otherwise, he gives up his lifetime health insurance.
Well, yeah, but
he can't collect until he's 55. Can't retire until he's 55.
Unless he's in the Tier 1.
He's not. He's not Tier 1. He's too young. He's too young to be in Tier 1.
He's Tier 4. 91.
Yeah, he's got to be Tier 4.
Tier 4.
91, yeah.
Yeah, he's younger than me, and I'm Tier 4. Yeah. What are you? You Tier 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we got in a little bit too late.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Best we could have hoped for is Tier 2, but
I got in Tier 1.
All right.
you would be 4 tiers.
All right.
Yeah.
In the 4th Ward, we apparently Dave Dybus is running for re-election again.
That's after he decided he wasn't.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, he did.
And I don't know if Diane's running or whether anybody's running. I haven't heard. I haven't heard Diane say she was. I haven't heard her say she wasn't. Diane Hatzenbuehler. So I don't know. And in the 5th Ward, Richie Leggero, I assume, is running for re-election. There's some talk that Jim Marticello may decide to try to come back
in, yeah.
and run for alderman. By the way, I don't know if you're aware of this, but he recently had open heart surgery, Jimmy.
I heard that, yeah.
I saw him a couple of weeks ago. He looked pretty good considering all he's been through. But those, that's kind of a frightening experience. I think that's a possibility. Then somebody else was talking about challenging Richie in a primary, but I'm not sure about that either. Anyway.
Well, Richie said that as it is right now, he's going to run, but he said I can change my mind at any time, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It probably depends on what transpires here next month.
Well, it comes a point in time where genuine retirement seems like a nice idea. And as I tell you, the more I've practiced it, the more, the less likely I am to
continue working.
Or go back to work. I thought maybe when the book was done, I might have all this extra, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. Guess what? I know what to do with myself.
Work on book number 2.
Yeah, I still got to come out with a Kindle edition of Where Do We Find Such Men, which is.
Where can you get that, Bob?
Huh?
Where can you buy that?
You can buy this at the Five Corners at the Old Peddler's Wagon. You can buy it downtown at the Book Hound, and you can buy it on Amazon.com. And that's the only places I'd recommend, because anywhere else you buy it doesn't give me a big enough cut to make it worth a plug. Easiest place, I don't make as much money when it's sold on Amazon, but I don't have to put up anything up front either. I don't have to buy the books ahead of time, which is what I do with the other places. I just keep them supplied. But anyway, still selling.
That's good.
I hope to sell a few books Saturday.
It's a great book.
Is it?
Yes, sure is.
You ought to read it.
I enjoy it every time I read it, which is often. It's. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I'm a great bathroom book reader. Okay, I like books that you can pick up and put down, and and next time you're in the bathroom, you pick it up, read another chapter, and don't make it too long. And you can't sit down and read a Clancy or a murder mystery or any of that stuff like that. But these books that have lots of different stories in them, you can do that. I mean, there's a whole general theme to this book. It's not like it's not connected. It is connected, but still, the stories you can read separate. They stand on their own. How do you get to this to Hollywood? Any idea how you get somebody in Hollywood to read this?
Well, there is a connection that we have to Hollywood. Whether or not he'd avail himself.
Oh, jeepers! How did I forget that? I got Hollywood in the book. Oh, yeah. I haven't sent him a copy yet. We're talking about the former, the actor formerly known as Isidore Dembski.
That might be. You might want to send 2, one to him and one to his son Michael, because I think he's a little bit more active than Kirk is right now.
Michael, Kirk Douglas's address I have. Michael's I don't have.
Well, Cameron, you can send one to Cameron. His address is easy.
Who's that?
Cameron, you can send a book to him. Cameron Douglas.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, all right. Jeepers. Kirk, he didn't mean it. He didn't mean it. Okay, yeah. But do you know his ID number?
You can get from any place in the prison system. I'll give it to you.
What was the name of that movie they were all in a few years ago? I think it was Kirk's last movie that he made. It was Family something or other, and
I don't know.
Kirk Douglas is the father. His first wife is the mother. Michael Douglas is the son, and Cameron Douglas is the grandson in this movie. So they're all in it.
I remember that.
And it was after Kirk had his stroke, but you know, it wasn't a great movie, but it was really fun to watch because his first wife was not a bad actress, and she was coming out. This is Michael's mother, and she was coming out of retirement after a long time, I think, and they were all good. I mean, and of course when you look at the family photos on the mantle, this is the real family photos. There's nothing photoshopped about this. This is actually them. Very, very well done.
I started watching Michael's movie, The Candelabra, about Liberace. He's got a very uncanny.
Is that out?
It's on HBO.
Oh,
And he's got an uncanny resemblance to Liberace. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, I saw.
Really?
I saw
Yeah.
the trailer. On
Yeah.
I thought they were going to release that in the theaters.
It's on it's HBO production.
Oh.
And it's all right. I got about 20 minutes into it the other night. Sorry.
And he's playing Liberace?
Michael Douglas is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and what the heck's
Who's playing his brother George?
I don't know who his brother George is, and I didn't recognize the guy. But it was.
I saw the trailer on the news, and
but
it looked like
Liberace.
It looked like Liberace.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a colorful character.
Yeah. Oh, he is a dancing queen. Yeah. Played well though.
Yeah.
You know,
You
entertaining.
know, they wouldn't. You know, we got 200 channels now. They wouldn't dream of putting something like that on TV today. And he had one of the most popular shows on television in the 50s.
Yeah.
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 Wow. Wow.
It looks. If you turn on, if you get to see him, it looks. He looks like him. It really does. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And that could be a movie someday. Your book. It's.
Well, I sent Kirk a copy of the last book, and somebody else sent him a copy of it as well. So he managed to get two copies of the last one. But he's actually in this one. So
Yeah. I mean, it could.
And he might want to read it just to pass it along to his lawyer because virtually everything about him there I stole from his book. Although I credit it. I mean,
But mark the pages in there where he is, so he can just flip through and read about himself if he chooses to do that. Save him time.
And I would think he would enjoy the Malcolm Atterbury section as well, since Malcolm got him his start. And later, how did that work? Kirk did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest on Broadway. And always wanted to do the movie, and then by the time it came around, he was too old to do it. So his son, not Michael, one of the other sons, produced One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and of course had Jack Nicholson playing the Kirk Douglas part, which turned out one of the great movies of the time frame. Anyway, when they played it on Broadway, if I recall correctly, I think Kirk owned the production at the time, and he hired Malcolm Atterbury to play one of the parts. It was kind of a return favor, now that he made it big. It was not that Malcolm Atterbury needed the money. I think he inherited the Pennsylvania Railroad or something like that.
I don't know what he does with the books that get sent to him. When I was teaching at the high school, I tracked down for Bert DeRose. I got one for myself and one for Bert, a copy of Clifford Putman of Tribes Hill. And Bert thought that'd always be a great movie. I mean, he certainly jumps along the Mohawk, and he thought this would go in very well with it. So we sent him a copy of the book then, but nothing ever came of it, so I don't know.
She was the one who was supposed to be married to John Johnson, right? And Sir William put the kibosh on it. In fact, her house is the one Dan Weaver lives in, right? On Queen Anne Road?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting book. It's a good book. But it would be a great one. I mean, the last movie about the Valley was the Drums Along the Mohawk.
1939. In those days, I don't know. Well, of course, books were more popular back then, and they were quickly made into movies. Gone with the Wind was a phenomenon, real phenomenon. But it's hard to believe that Margaret Mitchell had never written a book, right?
No, that was it.
And I think that ended up being because she died within a few years, killed in a car crash. But in those days, these Book of the Month Club things were phenomenally popular.
Yeah.
And they originally planned on releasing Gone with the Wind in May of 1936. And then they made the Book of the Month Club deal. And they put off the official publication until June, and the two editions were issued simultaneously. And it's funny because they're completely different layout, different covers, and the Book of the Month Club version has a different number of pages, and it was done in 2 columns. So you're reading it like a newspaper.
Yeah.
Really strange, but it sold hundreds of thousands of copies in the first 6 months. They went into I don't know how many printings, like 20 printings in the first year, and then they just kept getting bigger. And of course, when the movie comes out a few years, three years later, but it was long. The movie pre-sold itself because everybody had read the book at that point. Everybody knew Scarlett O'Hara was like, the Oprah Winfrey book club.
But people then had, in the course of a week, had an additional 15 hours to do something, and to read is what they did.
Yeah.
They'd get done with the meal, get done at 6, 7 o'clock, and then
maybe go to the movies twice a week, and
maybe
that'd be
maybe
8 hours of your week instead of the television.
Yeah, a couple hours to listen to the radio, one of the local serials that was on the radio.
Yeah, which
and
were
the rest of it-
15-minute programs. So.
And then you did something, and what they did was to read.
And you could read while listening to the radio.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what they did.
And now that time is taken up by something else, and it is what it is. Like I said, I was reading 3 books at one time this spring, and fortunately that came out, so I got to put the other ones aside for a while. But once you get into the habit of reading, you want to do it instead of anything else. Really,
the wife and I have now got like 8, maybe 10 books from the library for the next 2 weeks of our vacation, because we're going to a place where we can just relax and sit back and read, and there's nothing else to do. Maybe go out in the boat once in a while. But,
when we went to Scotland last year, I took a Clancy book with me, and any downtime, because we really didn't have any TV, I sat there and read. He's out running around playing soccer, the pikes with the kids, and Marina's there, fixing the meal, and I'm sitting there reading a book. It's a great thing that sometimes we forget how great it is, and we don't do it often enough. But once you get in that habit again, it's
thank God
wonderful.
my kids are all readers. They won't read my books, but they read other people's books. No. Louisa at least downloaded my murder mystery for her iPhone or something. I don't know. But, actually, I think she only downloaded the first chapter, which was free. So, but nevertheless, no, they haven't read. This is a wonderful book.
See, what people forget when they don't read is that each person who reads it is envisioning something else.
Right.
You've created the background and the scenery and the stage in which it's taking place for yourself. It's a common experience when you go to a movie, everybody sees the same thing, but when you read, you can have your own
big
image,
imagination.
and it creates an imagination, and your imagination does a whole lot of positive things for you in your life if you allow it to. And that's one of the big things, the kids in school, really miss out on, because they don't read as much in school.
They're not taught how to read. They're not taught how to read a book.
They're not taught the enjoyment of a book.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. They're not taught how to interpret what they're reading.
And the show, I read, Last of the Mohegans, and that was great. Then I bought the Classics Illustrated version of it, and I said, oh, that doesn't look like what I was thinking about when we were
Right.
talking about the escape down the river in the canoe. I thought of something else. I read Red Badge of Courage in school. Then got the Classic Illustrated. I said, well, yeah, that looks about right, how the dead men were lying there and he was looking at them. And
But there used to be so many books written. I got a good grasp of this when we inherited the contents of my wife's aunt's estate some years ago, because she had inherited the contents of somebody else's estate, who had gotten all the popular books of the 1930s and such, and they're just, there's Drums Along the Mohawk. I mean, I've got a first edition of Drums Along the Mohawk with the original dust cover up in the attic someplace. Dust cover's kind of in bad situation. Mary's going through the first edition Showboat, Edna Ferber's Showboat. I don't know. I don't think that's probably even worth much anymore. But at the time, it was a phenomenon. And again, Edna Ferber writes this novel. The novel itself becomes incredibly popular. They make a silent screen version of the story at the same time that the musical is being released, which was revolutionized Broadway, and then it's on the edge of the silent sound era. So it's mostly silent, and then there's a few sound sequences, including some of the songs from the musical, are plugged into this. But again, everybody knew the story before they ever saw it on stage or in the movies, and they went so quickly. Drums Along the Mohawk comes out, boom! Let's buy it and let's film it. I mean, just amazing.
Yeah, and the success of those were based upon the quality and the characters and the actors in there, as opposed to something not against your son, but generated through some computer to make it look something
I agree with
fantastic.
you. I agree with you.
When we were in school, we used to get every month we get that scholastic book order form.
Yes.
And I got Earth to the Moon, First Men in the Moon, Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Right. 20,000 Leagues on Mysterious Island. I must have read that 20 times.
And I was reading, I thought, I wonder if anybody else has ever read this. We didn't realize it. Been getting.
And I was better off than you were, because my mother was a 9th grade English teacher, and as such, the teachers got the bonus books. For every book that the kids sold, the teacher got so many points toward another book. So every month we were getting increasing our library, and they were all good stuff.
Those nuns must have had loads of them, because I can remember the boxes getting brought in the classroom, and sister opening the box up, and trying to piece through who's got what book coming. I was like, holy mackerel, but we did, you get three, they were only, 75, 95 cents a buck and a quarter.
Oh, yeah.
And, and I remember, I'd go home.
I doubt if any of them were
bucks.
as much as a buck, actually. Yeah.
We'd go home and, I'd read them. I
think my first copy of Huckleberry Finn was like 35 cents, in paperback.
Yeah.
And I got that in the supermarket someplace. Yeah.
But, I still got all those books home, I try to get Misha to look at them now. I look at them once in a while, but just the whole concept of reading and creating and that imagination is gone. If you can't see it, it doesn't exist. Well, it can exist.
They were good stories. They were just plain good stories, and they didn't necessarily fall into a particular genre. They was just literature was literature. And you don't have that anymore. You'll get the latest horror movie, the latest vampire, the latest vampire book.
There's
I mean, the Potter series is amazing in and of itself, because it took off at a time when kids weren't reading.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily easy reads. She doesn't write down to the kids.
No, she doesn't.
I found them extremely well written. I read them all, but my kids were reading them when they were quite young and read them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully someday people will pick up Where Do We Find Such Men and say, we've got to order 1 million copies of this right now.
Yeah. Everybody in Amsterdam should read. That should be on the MCM's Reads list next year.
I hope so. I mean, it should be.
It should be.
You know, at least it ought to be nominated anyway. You know, it was kind of the Historic Amsterdam League to nominate me for an award on the last book, which I didn't get, and I really didn't want, because this is the one.
Well,
This is the one I want the award for. This is the book I was writing, not the other one. The other one was just the appendix.
Yeah. But no, it's...
I'm so glad that I finished that.
Okay, Mr. Going.
It was by the review I got yesterday was in the form of an email, was from Jerry Frick, who was class of '69 at Amsterdam High. I didn't have his permission to use it, so that's why I didn't put it on Facebook. But I don't know that I ever met him. You know, we didn't always meet all the guys that went. We went to different schools together, as Father Hanselman would say.
Yeah. You know.
But yeah, he liked it a lot, and it's nice now. I'm starting to hear from people I don't know
Right. But
who have read the
word
book.
of mouth, you know, it's the best salesman. Now, Mr. Going.
Yes.
1986.
1986.
I was
Okay.
teaching at the high school, and I was trying to develop a project for my classes. And the project was going to be a choice of two things. It was going to be to interview your grandparents who lived through the Depression, or interview your relatives from World War II. It so happened the week I was working on this that PM Magazine came on. They did a thing on Russia, and because of that, I let this go. And 25 years ago, we could have had 10 times the numbers, and
Yeah.
I regretted it, you know, and I just never got back to it after that year when we did the Russian thing, and I stuck with that, and I never went back to it or got back to it. But I was just thinking when I finished that book, I said, all right, 1985, how many, you know, 10, 20, 25 years we've lost stories that you could have had.
And they would all have their memories back then, on top of being alive.
Yeah, so I apologize. If I hadn't watched PM Magazine on that Monday night.
So you sold out to the Ruskies instead?
Yeah, we made the class made a video for to be viewed by the Russians. Originally, what happened? PM Magazine was interviewing a Russian film crew that came over here to do a thing on middle class America, and the middle class America was the homeless people in New York City. Right. We saw that, and we said that's not really middle class America. So we did a video over the last 10 weeks of school about Amsterdam and the people, the activities, the workers, and everything. We sent it to the Russian embassy, and we thought it kind of laid there, but lo and behold, 2 years later, it pops up that that's how we got our invitation to go to Russia the first time.
Wow.
And we went, and we did pass it on to several schools. So several schools in Russia, at that time at least, were showing the video that we had made here about Amsterdam.
Now, what happened to that video? You have a copy?
Absolutely, I have a copy.
Well, why don't we put it up on YouTube so people can watch it?
That's an idea. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, Kevin DeLuca and Aaron Black were the news people in there, and they interviewed people, and we showed things. We showed Guy Park Manor down there, and ball games, and different parts of the city, and the housing, and the shopping, and the school that we did. And it was a little rough editing because we didn't have the equipment that they had today. Right.
You stop and start one videotape onto another.
We do it. Yeah. You know,
I used to make movies like that. Holy God.
But yeah. And actually, we ended up having to go down to St. Anne Institute, where I used to teach, to use their equipment to edit everything and put the music in it. There's some Grateful Dead tunes in there, and Beatles tunes in there, and the stuff we did for background over and everything. But yeah, I got that. It was called USA for Russia, and we showed it to the Board of Education.
You didn't play Back in the USSR in the background.
No, we didn't. You know. Oh, but yeah, so since this book has come out, you can't see the black and blues is on my ass, but they're there from kicking myself. I said, I should have, the following year we should have done that, but we didn't. And I already figured out how much it was going to cost me to buy the cassette tapes to give to each of the kids, so there's no excuse for not sitting down and talking to one of your relatives about it, because that was always a big question in my mind. What was Amsterdam like in the Depression? Because I always got the impression from my family that, we didn't get hit as hard here in the Depression as a lot of places did. But I don't know, and I wanted to find that out. And that was going to be the other project. You can go one or two directions with your project. So we would have had probably about 100 kids involved in getting this information, because I was teaching about 110 kids, but I didn't. There's not many things that I would have done different in life, but that certainly is one of them. I would have done that. But anyhow,
The road not taken.
road not taken.
Two roads diverged in a wood.
I always want to be in a situation to say, yeah, I did that, as opposed to saying, what if? This is my one what if on there. But yeah, I'll have to dig that,
So
that tape out.
I don't know if you ever got into those early computer adventure games, but I kind of...
Oregon Trail?
Well, yeah, stuff like that. I had one called Gold Rush, so where the guy starts out in Brooklyn and eventually has to find his way to California, and then dig for gold and solve all these puzzles along the way, and it takes forever to do it right. I don't even think it's actually solvable. I think there was a glitch in it, but in any event, one of the basic premises is you can save the game at any point, right? And later when you're killed or whatever, or you get lost in the cave, and you go back to the other point and then take the other road, and see what's down that road. So it would be great if life was like that, right? If you just
hit one do-over.
You just hit the rewind button, go back to that point, see what's down that road. If you don't like it, come back and go the other way.
Get one do-over.
I don't know. I need a lot more than one, I think.
Well, that's my one.
Well.
Oh well.
That'd be cool, but that's not the way it is, folks.
Not this time.
Yeah. What if I? Yeah.
Who knows?
I know.
I don't know.
Notre Dame recruited me, not as a football player, by the way, but didn't go.
As a what?
Huh?
As a what?
As a student.
As a student.
Yeah, I liked my national merit scores.
Yeah.
That's great.
St. John's in New York offered me, pretty much a full, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't even apply.
But that's one of the differences. Look how many schools these kids who applied to today. I applied one early met and one other one just as a backup. That was it.
I applied to one school.
I got in my
Talk about
early
arrogance.
Most
Why should I spend another $50 applying to another school?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah, I applied to
Albany
early
State's
met.
good enough for me. I should be good enough for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well. It is what it is.
I know.
Yeah, we got
What? What, is it almost 12 already?
Yeah.
12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. We started this one late, though.
Yeah.
It's probably
Yeah,
about
But it's been
45 minutes.
jam-packed.
2 minutes.
Huh?
It's been jam-packed with information and opinions and
It is.
musings.
It is.
We never discussed the new owners of the
recorder.
recorder and what you think is going to happen to it.
It would be pure speculation. Maybe they'll
Well, yeah.
maybe they'll turn the windmill around. I've
So
always
you-
wondered why we see the back of the windmill. I don't know.
I don't know. Who knew?
That was one of the big improvements they made a few years
Well,
ago.
that's because the guy stood on the other side when they took the picture.
It's a drawing. Maybe maybe it'll go back to being the Evening Recorder and Daily Democrat.
Oh.
Well, they said they were going to change the format a little.
More color, they
Yeah,
said.
it's more color.
Well, they have the presses. They can do that.
More local news.
I'll believe it when I see it.
That's not easy. That's not hard to do. More local news. The,
Well, it's hard, you know, I mean, their staff is down to nothing. I mean, in the old days, there'd be like, you know, 5 or 6 local reporters and
One
or
did all
more.
the social organizations and the
And not to
activities.
mention all the part-timers and the stringers. I mean, in the real olden days, there used to be stringers in every neighborhood. And if there was something going on somebody in the neighborhood was visiting
Yeah.
their kids in Atlantic City, it'd be in the paper because they just dropped the notice off at the local gossip. You know, social page used to be fascinating.
Yeah,
yeah.
you could run, but you couldn't hide.
That's where all the news was. That's where all it originated, in the neighborhoods. Of course,
Oh,
I've been noticing that all the reporters seem to be new. There's only one in there that I recognize, Heather Mills.
Heather Nellis has been doing the county stuff
Yeah.
for a few years.
Yeah,
Alyssa Scott, I don't know.
she's new.
She might be one of the summer people. Yeah. Well, anyway, that was one of the careers I never took up. You know, I always thought I'd go into journalism, and I actually gave up writing for 40 years, more or less. Yeah, it's time for another novel. I think I got to get the Kindle edition of Where Do We Find Such Men out, and I have to. I'm rewriting Honor Roll to more conform with this book and become the appendix it was supposed to be when I set it out. But then I think, just start into a novel and see where it goes. Maybe I'll just do a literature thing where where it's not like a murder mystery, or it's just literature.
Something well written.
History.
Yeah, just stuff Richard Russo writes. I love his stuff.
He's good. I like his stuff.
He kind of captures the flavor of the Mohawk Valley and the greater Gloversville area better than anyone other writer. You disagree with me?
Yeah, he's okay.
I get totally wrapped up in his stuff, even the minor stuff that doesn't,
I like that Don Williams stuff when he wrote with Nick Stoner and Salmon Boys and the Adirondack stuff. I thought he was a good writer. I liked him.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Anyway, okay. So anyway, it looks like the guys have had enough. So we're going to call it quits for the second hour. And as we mentioned at the end of the first hour, who knows when we'll be back again? But it'll probably be I need to take advantage of my couple of weeks vacation here and see what's going to happen. So
Okay, go ahead.
yeah,
Do that.
All right. So that's Gavin Murdoch. This is Jim Nicosia. I'm Bob Going, and this has been the show with no name.